Hello, good morning to everyone. Today we'll be dealing with the chapter Animal Kingdom. I want all of you guys to take your NCERT textbook, open it and read with me. This is like an NCERT podcast. Hope you guys like it. So we're going to be starting with the very first phylum, that is the phylum non-chordates, and at the second part we'll be dealing with the phylum chordates. So now, in the very first part of the animal kingdom, it is the basis of classification, like levels of organization. Then comes the symmetry, triploblastic, diploblastic, coelom, notochord, segmentation, and then we move on to each phylum. So let us start. So chapter 4, Animal Kingdom. When you look around, you observe different animals with different structures and forms. As over 1 million species of animals have been described till now, the need for classifications become all the more important. The classification also helps in assigning a systematic position to newly described species. In spite of differences in structure and form of different animals, there are fundamental features common to various individuals in relation to arrangement of cells, body symmetry, nature of coelom, patterns of digestive system, circulatory and reproductive system too. These features are on the basis of animal classification, and some of them are being discussed down below. So the very first one is the levels of organization. Though all members of animals are multicellular, all of them do not exhibit the same pattern of organization of cells. For example, in sponges, the cells are arranged as loose as cell aggregates. They exhibit a cellular level of organization. Now, make sure that you mark cellular level of organization and sponges. Some division of labor activities occur among the cells. In coelentrates, the arrangement of cells is more complex. Hence, the cells in coelentrates perform specific. So, each cell performs the same function, are arranged into tissues. Hence, it is called tissue level of organization. So, in short, the cells which perform the same function are arranged together as a group. So, that kind of a system is termed as tissue level. Now, a still higher level of organization of an organ level is exhibited by Platyhelminthes and other phyla, where tissues are grouped together in the form of organs, each specialized for a particular function. So, example of animals are annelids, arthropod, mollusca, echinoderms and chordates. Organs have associated to form functional system. So when they form a functional system, each system is concerned with each specific physiological function. So this type of a pattern is named as organ system level of organization. Organ system in different groups of animals exhibit various patterns of complexities. Organ system level of organization. Organ systems in different groups of animals exhibit various patterns of complexities. For example, the digestive system in Platyhelminthes has only single opening to the outside. So, this single opening represents the anus and the mouth. Hence, it is called incomplete digestive system. Now, complete digestive system has two openings, that is the mouth and the anus. Similarly, the circulatory system is subdivided into two types, that is the open type and the closed type. Now, the very first one, open type, in which the blood is pumped out of the heart and the cells and the tissues are directly bathed in it. And closed type, in which the blood is circulated through a series of vessels of varying diameters. So, in the bracket it's mentioned like arteries, veins and capillaries. So now we are moving on to the second type of classification in order to classify animals' characteristics, and it is symmetry. So animals have been categorized on the basis of symmetry. Sponges are mostly asymmetrical. Any plane that passes through the center does not divide them into equal halves. When any plane passing through the axis of the body, that is the center axis of the body, and it can be divided into two equal halves or two identical halves, it is referred as radial symmetry. Coelentrates, ctenophores, echinoderms have this kind of body plan, that is radial symmetry. Now, animals like annelids, arthropods, etc., where the body can be divided into two identical left and right halves of only one plane, that is known as bilateral symmetry. In radial symmetry, it is like in two identical halves like coelentrates, ctenophora and echinoderms. Now, examples of bilateral symmetry is annelids and arthropoda. Now, echinodermates larvae actually have two different symmetries. When they are in a larva, they have bilateral symmetry. And when they are adult, they have a radial symmetry. This is like a point which is not mentioned in the textbook, but as we read, we'll get to understand that. So make sure you write this point again. I repeat, echinoderms in larva form, they are bilateral symmetry. As they grow and they become an adult, it is radial symmetry. Now we are moving on to the third classification, that is diploblastic and triploblastic organization. So animals in which the cells are arranged in two embryonic layers, an external ectoderm and an internal endoderm, is known as diploblastic. Diploblastic means two layers, external and one is internal. So the one which is external is known as ectoderm and the one which is internal is known as endoderm. Now, example, coelentrates. Undifferentiated layer mesoglia is present in between the ectoderm and the endoderm. Those animals in which the developing embryo has a third germinal layer, which is the mesoderm, is known as in between the external ectoderm and internal endoderm, is called triploblastic. Like from the animals from the organisms from platyhelminthes to chordates, most of them are triploblastic, which means they have a third germinal layer between the external ectoderm and internal endoderm. That is the mesoderm between both these two. Now we are moving on to the fourth classification, that is the coelom. Coelom is actually also known as a cavity. It actually acts as a shock absorber. You can write it near the topic. Like coelom means cavity, which is also a shock absorber. So presence or absence of a cavity between the body wall and the gut wall is very important in classification. So the body cavity which is lined by mesoderm is known as coelom. So animals possessing coelom are called coelomates, such as examples of coelomates are actually annelids, mollusks, arthropoda, echinoderms, hemichordates and chordates. In some animals, the body cavity is not lined by mesoderm. Instead, the mesoderm is actually present in scattered pouches in between the ectoderm and the endoderm. Such a kind of body cavity is known as pseudocoelom, and the animals possessing them are called pseudocoelomates. Example is Ash helminthus. So Ash helminthus is an example of pseudocoelomates. Now you should always remember that pseudo means false everywhere. Pseudo means false. For example, in amoeba it has pseudopodia, which means false feet. So pseudo means false. Now moving on to the next line, the animals in which the body cavity is completely absent is known as acoelomates. So you need to remember that a means absent. So acoelomates, absent, body cavity is absent, like in platyhelminthes. So let us just brief the entire topic 4, that is coelom. So body cavity lined with a mesoderm is known as coelom. Animals with coelom is known as coelomates, like annelids, mollusk, arthropod, echinoderms, hemichordata and chordata. So now the second type is when the mesoderm is not lined. So here what happens is mesoderm is present in scattered pouches, like in Ash helminthes, that is known as pseudocoelomates. Now, if the mesoderm layer or the cavity is completely absent, that is known as acoelomates. Example, platyhelminthes. Now, moving on to segmentation. Now, segmentation is a very important part. So, you can put a star there whenever you revise. I know it is a tiny paragraph, but most of the time questions have been asked. So in some animals, the body is externally and internally divided into segments. So with a serial repetition of at least some organs. For example, in earthworm, the body shows this pattern, that is the segmentation. So this type of pattern is known as metameric segmentation, and this phenomenon is called metamerism. So the segment is also known as metamer. Okay. So that is it. Now we are moving on to notochord, which is the 6th classification given. Notochord is mesodermally derived. It is like a rod-like structure formed on the dorsal side during embryonic development only in some animals. Animals with notochord are called chordates, and those animals which do not form this structure are called non-chordates. So non-chordates is from porifera to echinoderms. So from now on, we'll be moving to topic number 2. So here there is a division of chordates and non-chordates. So the one which has notochord is called the chordates. So the one which do not have the notochord is called non-chordates. The name itself clearly suggests about the presence of notochord and the absence of notochord. Hope things are clear till now. So from now on, we'll be dealing with the non-chordates. Classification of animals, topic number 4.2. The board classification of Animalia based on common fundamental features as mentioned in preceding sections in the given figure 4.4. So figure 4.4 is very important, and remember the line which I said before. They have put a star and they have said that Echinodermata exhibits radial or bilateral symmetry depending on their stage. So they represent bilateral symmetry when they are in larvae, and they represent radial symmetry when they are in adult. So you can mark it. Once you just read, you need to skim and scan too at the same time. So figure 4.4 is very important. It is like a roadmap to what is it leading to. So Animalia, which is multicellular, has 2 levels of organization, that is cellular level and tissue level of organization. Now cellular level, mostly the symmetry is asymmetrical. Now their body cavity is actually acoelomate, which means cavity is completely absent. Now examples of such kind of an multicellular organism is actually porifera. Now we are moving on to tissue level of organization. Tissue, organ or organ system. So you need to always remember that porifera is the only one with cellular level of organization in this figure. Now we are moving on to tissue, organ or organ system. Now it is subdivided into 2, radial or bilateral. Now radial means acoelomate. They are so acoelomate phylums are actually Coelenterata, also known as Cnidaria or Ctenophora. Now bilateral is actually without body cavity, Platyhelminthes or coelomates. With false coelom, it is pseudocoelomates or ashhelminthes. Now, bilateral symmetry is also present with true coelom, that is coelomate with cavity. Such examples are actually Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Hemichordata and Chordata. Now, Hemichordata actually they are ectodermal in origin and they have a stomochord. Okay, now just write it beside, it is very important at the same time. Now we are moving on to our very first phylum, that is the phylum Porifera, which is the only phylum under cellular level of organization. So, members of this phylum are commonly known as sponges. They are generally marine and mostly asymmetrical animals. These are primitive multicellular animals and they have cellular level of organization. Sponges have a water transport or canal system. So what happens is water enters through small pores or minute pores called ostia in the body wall into a central cavity which is called the spongiocele, from where it goes out through the osculum. Now this pathway of water transport is very helpful in food gathering, respiratory exchange and removal of waste. Choanocytes or collar cells line the spongiocele and the canals. Digestion is intracellular and the body is supported by a skeleton. This is important. The body is supported by a skeleton made up of spicules or spongin fibers. Sexes are not separate, that is why they are known as hermaphrodite. Like eggs and sperms are produced by the same individual. That means sexes are not separate. Sponges reproduce asexually by the fermentation and sexually by the formation of gametes. Fertilization is internal and development is indirect, having a larval stage which is morphologically distinct from an adult. So hope things are clear till here, and then we move on to the next page. We'll get the examples of phylum Porifera, that is Cycon, which is also known as Scypha, Spongilla, freshwater sponge, Euspongia, bath sponge. Examples are really important. Now we'll just summarize the entire Porifera and I'll tell you which is all very important. So make sure that you highlight multicellular animals, asymmetrical, cellular level of organization, and then they have a water transport or a canal system. Water enters through the minute pores like ostia, and then the body travels into the central cavity, which is the spongiocele, from where it goes out through the osculum. Now this system is very important. Now the pathway of water transport is helpful in food gathering, respiratory exchange and removal of waste. Now the next important point is that choanocytes or collar cells line the spongiocele and the canals. Digestion is intracellular and the skeleton is made up of spicules or spongin fibers. It is a hermaphrodite, that means sexes are not separate. And sponges reproduce asexually by fragmentation and sexually by the formation of gametes. That is important. Fertilization is internal, development is indirect. So for Porifera, everything is indirect and internal, and they have a larval stage which is morphologically distinct from adults. Now, they mostly asked about Cycon and Spongilla. Euspongia is very rarely, but make sure that you learn all the three. Cycon, also known as Scypha, Spongilla, freshwater sponge, Euspongia, bath sponge. So hope you guys are thorough till here. And now we are moving on to the second phylum, that is phylum Coelenterata, also known as Cnidaria. Now they are aquatic, mostly marine, sessile or free living. Now sessile means they are stuck to the ground. or they are free swimming. That means they are freely moving. They are radially symmetrical animals, and the name Cnidaria is derived from nidoblast or nidocyte, which means they contain the stinging capsules or nematocyst. They are present on the tentacles and the body. So what they have said that the name Cnidaria has been derived because they have something known as nidoblast and nidocytes. So what do these things do? They have the stinging capsules or nematocyst which is present on the tentacles in the body. Now the next line they have mentioned what is the use of nidoblast. Nidoblast is used for anchorage, defense and the capture of prey. So their stinging capsules actually help in the capture of prey, defense and anchorage. Cnidarians exhibit tissue level of organization and they are diploblastic. Diploblastic means they have an external ectoderm and an internal endoderm. They do not have a mesoderm. That is the third germinal layer between both of them. That is not there in the case of diploblastic. I hope things are clear till now. Now in the next line, they have a central gastrovascular cavity with a single opening mouth on hypostome. So they have a gastrovascular cavity with only a single opening and their mouth on hypostome. Now digestion may be extracellular or intracellular. Some of the cnidarians example is corals. They have a skeleton composed of calcium carbonate. Now this is important. So they have a coral which is a skeleton composed of calcium carbonate. Now cnidarians exhibit two basic types of body, that is polyps and medusa. Now the former is a sessile cylindrical form like Hydra and Adamsia, whereas latter is umbrella shaped free swimming like Aurelia or jellyfish. So polyp is the one which is attached to the ground, which is very sessile. It is cylindrical form like Hydra and Adamsia. And then they are talking about Medusa, which is free living like Aurelia and jellyfish. Now, it is also said that cnidarians exist in both forms and they exhibit an alternation of generation, that is metagenesis. Metagenesis is actually they exhibit alternation of generations, like polyp produce Medusa asexually and Medusa forms polyp sexually. For example is Obelia. So example of coelenterata cnidaria or cnidaria is Phycelia. Phycelia is very important, Portuguese man of war. Adamsia is important, in the bracket Adamsia is also known as sea anemone. Penatula is known as sea pen, Gorgonia is known as sea fan, and Mindrina is known as brain coral. So the ones given in brackets, my dear children, it is very important. They can ask from anywhere. So Phycelia is Portuguese man of war, that is important, and they will be asking Adamsia also, which is sea anemone. Sea anemone, which means coelenterata. Now I'm just giving a short summary of this entire thing. Now make sure you guys mark it, okay? So phylum coelenterata or cnidaria, they're aquatic, mostly marine, sessile or free living, radially symmetrical. Now the name cnidaria is derived from the nidoblast or nidocyte, which contain the stinging capsules or nematocyst, which is present on the tentacles and the body. So nidoblast is actually used for anchorage, defense and capture of prey. They have a tissue level of organization. They are diploblastic and they have a central gastrovascular cavity with a single opening mouth on hypostome. So digestion is either extracellular or intracellular. Please mark with me and also recollect whatever we have read. So corals, they have a skeleton which is composed of calcium carbonate, and then Cnidaria exhibit two types of body forms, that is polyp and medusa. Polyp is actually sessile and they're cylindrical like Hydra and Adamsia. Adamsia is also known as sea anemone, where later comes the medusa which is free living like Aurelia and jellyfish. And here there is another important feature, that is Cnidarians exhibit metagenesis. For example, polyps produce medusa asexually and medusa produce polyp sexually like Obelia. Examples: Phycelia, Portuguese man of war, is very important. Adamsia, sea anemone. Pennatula, sea pen. Gorgonia, sea fan. Mindrina is brain coral. Now we are moving on to phylum Ctenophora. Ctenophora is commonly known as sea walnut or comb jellies. So there is a picture. So the picture here is actually example of Ctenophora, which is known as Pleurobrachia, and this picture has been shown, and then they will ask you to identify which is it or which kingdom does it belong to. So you need to mark Ctenophora. So back to the reading. Ctenophore is commonly known as sea walnuts or comb jellies, and they are exclusively marine, radially symmetrical, and they are diploblastic organs with tissue level of organization. The body bears 8 external rows of ciliated comb plates which help in locomotion. Now you need to always remember that cilia means it is a mode of locomotion, that is movement. Now, digestion is both extracellular and intracellular like Cnidaria. Bioluminescence is the main property of living organism to emit light, is well marked in ctenophores. Sexes are not separate, that means they are hermaphrodite. And then it is said that reproduction takes place only by sexual means. Fertilization is external and development is indirect. Example is Pleurobrachia and Ctenoplana. So this is a very short paragraph, and the main important things here is actually they're commonly known as sea walnut and comb jellies. Please do mark that. Marine, radially symmetrical, diploblastic, tissue level, and they have comb plates, which is 8 external rows of ciliated comb plates, and which help in locomotion. Digestion is extracellular and intracellular. The property of bioluminescence to emit light, and they are hermaphrodite, which means sexes are not separate. Reproduction is only sexual. Fertilization is external with indirect development. Pleurobrachia and Ctenoplana are these example. Now please do remember the figure 2. Now we are moving on to the phylum Platyhelminthes. That is the 4th phylum. They have a dorso-ventrally flattened body, and hence they are called flatworms. So phylum Platyhelminthes is also known as flatworms, and they are mostly endoparasites found in animals, including human beings. Flatworms are bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic and acoelomate. Triploblastic means they have a layer of mesoderm, which is the 3rd germinal layer between ectoderm and endoderm. And then they are acoelomate, which means their cavity is absent. With organ level of organization, hooks and suckers are present in parasitic forms. Some of them absorb nutrients from the host and directly through their body surface. Specialized cells called flame cells. Now these flame cells is very important. Now please do highlight that. Flame cells help in osmoregulation and excretion. Sexes are not separate. Fertilization is internal and development is through many larval stages. Some members like Planaria possess high regeneration capacity. Examples is Taenia, tapeworm, Fasciola, liver fluke. So they have dorso-ventrally flattened body, hence they are called flatworms. These are mostly endoparasites found in animals. So Actually, platyhelminthes, these kind of worms, actually tapeworm causes a lot of infections in our body. That is why it is said that it is present in human beings too. So now we'll be going through the very important points, that is dorsoventrally flattened body, also known as flatworm, and they are triploblastic coelomate, bilateral symmetry. They have hooks and suckers to absorb nutrients from the host, and they have flame cells also for osmoregulation and excretion. And sexes are not separate, which means they're hermaphrodite. Fertilization is internal, and their development is through many larval stages. And planaria possess a high regeneration capacity. Now this is very important. They might ask, which of the following possess a high regeneration capacity? Planaria. Taenia, which means tapeworm. Fasciola means liver fluke. You can remember fasciola like F and fluke. So fasciola and liver fluke, like that. So now we are moving on to the next phylum, which is Aschelminthes, which is the phylum number 5. So the body of Aschelminthes is circular. That means it is roundworm. They may be free living, aquatic, terrestrial, or parasitic in plants and animals. Parasitic in the sense they are disease causing organisms, so that is why they are known as parasite. So we have roundworm diseases, right? We'll be I think you guys might have learned in human health and diseases, roundworms do cause a lot of diseases. So not diseases in the sense they cause infections basically. So roundworms have organ system level of body organization. They are bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic, and they are pseudocoelomate animals. Alimentary canal is present with a well-developed muscular pharynx. An excretory tube removes body waste from the body cavity through excretory pore. Sexes are separate, which is dioecious. Males and females are distinct. Often females are longer than males. Fertilization is internal and their development may be direct, which means in bracket it is mentioned that the young ones resemble the adult or they are indirect. Moving on to the examples, Ascaris, roundworm, Wuchereria, filaria worm, bracket it's mentioned. Then Ancylostoma is hookworm. So now in the picture in figure 4.10, you will be noticing that the male is actually shorter and the female is longer. So that is mentioned, and the example of Aschelminthes. Now this is an example of roundworm, male and female form. So revising the entire Aschelminthes again, please do mark with me. Aschelminthes, circular in cross section, also known as roundworm, free living, aquatic, terrestrial, parasitic, organ system level of organization, bilateral symmetry, triploblastic, pseudocoelomate, which means they have their mesoderm is in scattered pouches. Now triploblastic, which means they have a mesoderm. And alimentary canal is complete with a well-developed muscular pharynx. Now muscular pharynx is very important. Now you might be thinking, why muscular pharynx? Muscular pharynx is required in order to suck the nutrition from the host. So you can write this tiny point somewhere near that. It is important. I repeat it again. Muscular pharynx, the main function is to suck the nutrition from the host. Now, excretory tube removes the waste in the body cavity through the excretory pore. Sexes are separate, which means they are dioecious. If the sexes are non-separate, they are actually known as not separate hermaphrodites. So often females are longer than males. That is it. Fertilization is internal, development is direct, and that is the end of Aschelminthes. Now moving on to the phylum Annelida, which is the 6th one. They may be aquatic, marine, freshwater, or terrestrial, free living, and sometimes parasitic. They exhibit organ system level of organization. They are bilaterally symmetry. They are triploblastic, metamerically segmented, and they are coelomate animals. Their body surface is distinctly marked out into segments or metameres. See, before, I think later, but when we were reading the segmentation part, I have told you guys to write segments or metameres. See, it is mentioned here in Annelida. So they are triploblastic, metamerically segmented, coelomate. Their body surface is distinctly, that means it is very easy to identify that it is divided into segments and metameres. Now, this phylum name Annelida, which means Latin annulus means little rings. They possess longitudinal and circular muscles which help them in locomotion. Now, aquatic annelids like Nereis possess lateral appendages, parapodia, which help them in swimming. So, Nereis is actually a type of sandworm which help them, which actually they have lateral appendages. Now, Nereis is also a sandworm. That point is not there in the textbook, so make sure you guys write it. So, they have something known as parapodia, which is important for swimming. A closed circulatory system is present. Nephridia is actually which help in osmoregulation and excretion. In the before one, that is in the phylum number 4, we have learned about platyhelminthes. So there it is mentioned about flame cells. So the same way, flame cells, their main function was osmoregulation and excretion. The same way when it came into Annelida, Nephridia is the one which regulates osmoregulation and excretion. Neural system has a pair of ganglia connected to lateral nerves to double ventral nerve cord. Nereis is an aquatic form which is dioecious, but earthworms and leeches are monoecious. If the sexes are separate, that means they are actually dioecious, and like Nereis, leeches and earthworms are monoecious, like leeches causes hirudin, so, and the reproduction is only sexual means. So reproduction is actually only sexual in Ctenophora too. So when you compare and study, my children, it is very important. I mean, it is very, you can easily remember things when you compare with whatever you learned before. You can grasp things more fast. So Ctenophora and Annelida, only sexual means of reproduction. So now moving on to the examples of Annelida. Nereis, Perithema earthworm, Hirudinaria, which is blood-sucking leech, which is very important. Now here is a short recap of the entire phylum Annelida. Please do recall with me. They may be aquatic, marine or freshwater. They are terrestrial, free-living, sometimes parasitic. They have a body organization, bilateral symmetry. They are metamerically segmented, coelomate animals. That means they have coelom. They are triploblastic. They have a mesoderm layer, that means. And their body surface is exclusively into segments or metameres. And the name Annelida means little ring in Latin, and they possess longitudinal and circular rings which help them to move. And aquatic annelids like Nereis, they have lateral appendages, and they have something known as parapodia, which means swimming, and they have a closed circulatory system. Nephridia is actually something like flame cells in platyhelminthes, which helps in osmoregulation and excretion. So the neural system consists of a paired ganglia, and they are connected by lateral nerves into double ventral nerve cord. And Nereis is an aquatic form which is dioecious. So Nereis is the only one which is dioecious. Earthworm and leeches are monoecious. Dioecious in the sense that means sexes are separate. If the sexes are not separate, they are known as hermaphrodite, and their reproduction is sexual. So till here, hope everything is thorough. Now we are moving on to the next phylum, Arthropoda, which is phylum number 7, and we have 3 more to go and we are done with non-chordates. So phylum Arthropoda is the largest phylum of Animalia, which includes insect. Now this is important. Now, over 2/3 of all named species on earth are arthropods. They have an organ system level of organization. They are bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic, segmented and coelomate. That means they have a cavity. Their body of arthropods are covered by a chitinous exoskeleton. This is very important, okay? That is, their body is covered by a chitinous exoskeleton, and their body is divided into head, thorax and the abdomen. They have jointed appendages. See, arthros means joint, Poda means appendage. This is like the meaning of the entire word. So respiratory organs like gills, book lungs, or the tracheal system is present for them, and they have an open circulatory system. Now sensory organs like antennae, eyes, and statocyst or balancing organs are also present. Now you'll be thinking, now what is balancing organs? See, it is we do say that ear maintains the balance in our body. So the same way, sensory organs like antenna, eyes, compound and simple. Now excretion takes place through Malpighian tubules. They are mostly dioecious. Dioecious in the sense sexes are separate, and their excretory organ is Malpighian tubules, and fertilization is usually internal. They are mostly oviparous, and development may be direct or indirect. So now the examples are actually written in the form of Apis, Vectors and Gregarious. Apis, honeybee, which is economically important insect, is actually Apis, which is honeybee, Bombyx, which is silkworm, Laccifer, which is lac insect. Vectors, Anopheles mosquito, Culex and Aedes mosquito. Now Aedes mosquito actually gives a virus which is known as Zika virus, which is not important. I just told you for your information. Now we are moving on to gregarious pest. Now gregarious pest in the sense the pest which is in colonies is known as gregarious. Now locusta, which means locust. Living fossil means limulus. Limulus is also known as king crab. So king crab is the living fossil. Now that is very important question they might ask. Now, before I told you about the statocyst, okay. Now, there is a statocyst which is present in prawns also in order to balance their body. So, hope things are thorough here. So, we'll be recapping about the important points here. Largest phylum, which is Arthropoda. And they have their bodies divided into head, thorax and abdomen. They have a chitinous exoskeleton, jointed appendages, and they have an open circulatory system. They have an antennae. Excretion takes place through Malpighian tubules. They are dioecious. Fertilization is usually internal. They are oviparous. Development is either direct or indirect. And then comes the examples. Now living fossil is important. Limulus is the living fossil present in Arthropoda, which is also known as king crab, honeybee, Apis, Bombyx, silkworm, etc. Now we are moving on to phylum number 8, which is Mollusca. Mollusca, after Arthropoda, which is the largest phylum, Mollusca comes as the second largest animal phylum. Mollusca are terrestrial or aquatic, marine or freshwater, having an organ system level of organization. They are bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic and coelomate animals. Their body is actually covered by calcareous shell, and it is an unsegmented with distinct head and muscular foot and visceral hump. A soft and spongy layer of skin forms a mantle over the visceral hump. The space between the hump and the mantle is actually known as mantle cavity, in which feather-like gills are present. They have respiratory and excretory functions. The anterior head region actually has the sensory tentacles, which is in order to sense the environment, etc. Now the mouth contains a file-like grasping organ for feeding like radula, and they are usually dioecious. That means their sexes are separate. They are oviparous with indirect development. Now examples are important. Pila, apple snail, pinctada, pearl oyster, sepia, cuttlefish. Loligo is squid. Octopus, devilfish. Aphalsia is sea hare. Dentalium is tusk shell. Dentalium is important. Now Chaetoplora is chitin. So hope things are clear till now. Now we'll be just recapping phylum Mollusca, second largest phylum. They are terrestrial, aquatic, organ system, bilateral symmetry, triploblastic, coelomate, and their body is covered by a hard, unsegmented calcareous shell, which is divided into head, muscular foot, and visceral hump. And the the space between the hump and the mantle is actually known as the mantle cavity, and they have gills present, and they have a file-like grasping organ for feeding called radula. They are dioecious, they are oviparous, indirect development, and that is it with phylum Mollusca. So we are moving on to phylum number 9, that is Echinodermata. These animals have an endoskeleton of calcareous ossicles, and hence the name is Echinodermata. In the bracket they have mentioned they are actually spiny bodied, as in the figure 4.14. So moving on to the features, the adult echinoderms are radially symmetrical, but the larvae is bilaterally symmetrical, as said before. So they are triploblastic, that means they have a mesoderm, and they are coelomate, that means there is a presence of cavity. Digestive system is complete with mouth on the lower ventral side and anus on the upper dorsal side. Now this is important. The most distinctive feature of echinoderms is the presence of water vascular system, which helps in the presence of locomotion, capture and transport of food and respiration. An excretory system is absent. Sexes are separate, reproduction is sexual, fertilization is usually external, development is indirect, and free-swimming larvae. Examples are Asteriasis, which is starfish, Echinus, sea urchin, Antedon is sea lily, Cucurmia, Cucumaria is sea cucumber. When you see cucu, you need to remember it is cucumber, and Ophiura, which is brittle star. So the main points to remember in Echinodermata is actually they are spiny bodied, radially symmetrical in their adult stage. In larvae stage, they are bilateral, triploblastic, coelomate, complete digestive system, mouth on the lower ventral and anus on the upper dorsal. The most distinctive feature is actually water vascular system, which helps in locomotion, capture and transport of food, and they do not have an excretory system, even though their digestive system is complete. And they are dioecious, which means the sexes are separate, and reproduction is sexual, fertilization is usually external, development is indirect, free swimming larvae. And that is the end of phylum number 9, that is Echinodermata. Now moving on to the very last and final phylum of non-chordates, that is Hemichordata. Now Hemichordata was earlier considered as a subphylum under phylum Chordata, but now it is placed as a separate phylum under non-chordata. So Hemichordata have a rudimentary structure in the collar region, which is known as stomochord. That is a structure which is similar to notochord, but it is not exactly notochord. The phylum consists of a small group of worm-like marine animals with organ system level of organization. They are bilateral, symmetrical, triploblastic, coelomate animals. The body is cylindrical and it is composed of anterior proboscis, a collar and a long trunk. Circulatory system is open type. Respiration takes place through gills. Excretory organ is proboscis gland. So excretory is proboscis gland. Sexes are separate. Fertilization is external. Development is indirect. Now only there are two examples which is present, that is Bolanoglossus and Saccoglossus. Like the same way, in phylum Mollusca, the body was divided into head, muscular foot, in visceral hump. The same way here it is divided as proboscis, collar and trunk. So proboscis actually is the main excretory organ. Sexes are separate, fertilization is external and development is indirect. That is it. Now just recapping everything. Hemichordata was earlier considered as a subphylum under phylum Chordata. Chordata in the sense the notochord is present, but it was not exactly like they had chordata, but they were similar like non-chordata. That is why it was placed under separate phylum under non-chordata. Like Hemichordata has something known as, in the collar region they have a stomochord. Now the phylum consists of a small worm-like marine animals, and they have organ system, bilaterally symmetrical triploblastic coelomate, proboscis, collar and trunk. Now the proboscis is the excretory gland, open circulatory system, and their respiration is lungs, and fertilization is internal, development is indirect. So that's it for today's. So we have done with the non-core data and the classification basis. And so hope this is fine. Please do tell me in the comment section if you would like more sessions like this. This is like my very first attempt to teach, basically. I have taught my friends and everything, but not to a whole mass like this. So hope you like my NCERT podcast series. Please do like, share and subscribe the session. And if you have any suggestions, please do comment down below. And since it is my very first, there will be a lot of negatives, but please do support me throughout. And I would like to help the NEET students and the 12th and the 11th grade students to achieve their target to score full marks in biology. I hope this is really going to help you guys. So this is a small request. Whenever you're hearing any kind of podcast, make sure that you open the textbook and you have an idea. So when you skim and scan your thorough, and NCERT biology will be at your fingertips, trust me. So thank you so much. Until then, God bless you all.